1813, Battle of Leipzig, played through the 16th, a rainy 17th, it's dawn, and we'll see what happens. We'll just get rid of the box cover for a moment. There it goes. Right, so just review in case there's somebody new to these games or even wargaming here. Trying to make a wargaming video entertaining's a challenge, I must say, but we'll see what we can do. Alright, so the pieces you have on the board here, there's leaders, and they have a leadership attribute. And then the combat units you can see here. Infantry is like this with the cross symbol. Cavalry is a half slash. Vedettes are like scouts. Artillery is a dot, and horse artillery, so combination of cavalry and artillery are a slash with a dot. The first number is the combat value, and the second number is the movement. So that is that. So let's have a look at the situation, and we'll stay at this zoomed out level for the time being. But here's Leipzig, and we can see here French line all along here. We'll have a close look at that in a minute. And then west of this river system over here, and even going north to here. So it's open to the northeast, and that's because there's going to be French reinforcements coming down here, closely followed by being chased by some allies. Alright, so let's have a bit of a closer look at what we've got. So we've got Marmont's corps here, and if you look at the terrain underneath there, there's town, it's mostly flat. Just arrived here, rest during the night, got moving early in the morning, no time to dig in yet. Perhaps I'll try and do that. Opposing them up here is the Prussians in Europe, Osten-Sachsen corps of Russians, and this Russian corps, Langeron, during the night has marched all the way around here. Had a few hours sleep, but they marched for 2 out of the 5, I think 3 out of the 5 night turns. So that's going to be a bit of a battle. And we know that there's more allies are going to come on. So Bernadotte and the Swedes are going to come on through the north from up this road here. We'll have a quick look at those. So there's a fair few of those guys coming on as well. We also know that these Russians, or the Z Corps and the 14th Corps, will be coming on. You know, Rainier's 7th Corps coming down the road, but will be quickly followed by Bulow's Prussians. Some Russian artillery with him as well. Alright, so if we go down, let's center ourselves on Leipzig so you know where you are. West we have 2nd Young Guard, which fought in the rain on the 17th in this alternative history that happened in my game, and they demoralized. This corps here, the LO Corps, I think is almost demoralized. It has one more loss and it will be, so I've just marked that to remind me. And they've pushed forward here, and we've got Pontolewoski's 8th Polish Corps here, fighting with the French. Opposing them are a couple of corps which themselves are almost demoralised. 3rd Austrian and the 1st Light Austrian, and St. Priests, Russians, are over here. They did all the damage. They're still quite healthy. That's quite a small corps. There's two infantry units, artillery and a cavalry. And the main game is down here south and southeast of Leipzig. And we can see in here we have 3rd French Corps with artillery sighted here overlooking this stream. I think you find that this infantry here is in a chateau, and so chateaus are pretty much fortified as long as you don't overstack and just have one infantry unit like I've got there. So he's pretty hard to knock out. You pretty got a melee to get him out, so that's going to be tough. And then French have artillery all along this line. It's a bit of a ridge here. Let's see it better here. A bit of a valley through here. So there's some French units in there, some infantry sitting there, and there's cavalry behind the line, including the guard cavalry, waiting to charge anything that pushes into that initial line there. Opposing them is 2nd Austrian, Austrian Guard, and Russian Guard. So there's some high quality troops in this area. Backing them up is this corps of the 2nd Prussians, but they're demoralised, which means their morale, and the rule system I play, the morale's normally, for a normal infantry unit like that, would be 4, but the -1s are only 3, so there's a 50% chance that they would become disorganised in battle, and then an equally difficult chance for them to reorganise, in a 50% chance. This corps here is the Austrian 4th Corps, and let's sort of look at its losses here. Austrian 4th Corps. Okay, it's still got 8 more losses it can take before it's demoralised, so it's fairly healthy. And then we've got 2nd Russian over here, Wittgenstein. They're a bit brittle, and backing them up in case they break is Colorado, 1st Austrian. Coming down the road, we see Russian advance guard, the 2nd Light Austrians, and Benningsen's corps. So things are set. So just going to prepare and show you how we prepare the chit pull pool, which will dictate who moves first in this chit pull system. Okay, I might pop over the other side of the screen there. So let's do this chit pull. So essentially what happens is you put a chit in for every organisation that's on the map. So here's all the French corps, including the Guard, Cavalry corps. There's one missing there, so where do you get those from? You just get them from the counter tray. So I want French, markers, 2nd Cavalry, here it is. Put that there. Close the marker and the pieces. So they will all go into this drawer here where we take the chits out. So I'll just clean it out of ones that we didn't have last turn. Alright, just got to go up there. So it's important that you make sure you have all of them. And I'll just make sure of that and come straight back. Right, here we are. So, as I said, here's all the French corps, guards, cavalry. Down here is some Prussians, and we have some Russians and some Austrians. Right, so the first thing we do is we roll a dice each to see who has the initiative. So I'll do that. First dice will be French. It's 5 and a 4. To that number is added the command value of the overall commander, in this case Napoleon and Schwarzenberg, who is over here. So that now means we have a 6 and a 5. If that adjusted number is at least 6, then that side gets to go first, and they can choose which chit they would like to go first, and it doesn't have to go in the pool. So let's do that. So let's choose a French corps, say down that's in range. I could perhaps do some artillery fire. Right, so this is Victor's second corps, so let's choose second corps. So its chip won't go into the pool. If there is 3 difference between the amended dice rolls, so 6 and 5, so that's not the case. If there was, then you can put a coordinated action in as well, in which case you would nominate 2 corps to go on here, and they would both, when it's called, move and fight together. But that's not the case that we have here. In this phase also we can do some assignments, such as setting up grand batteries, assigning divisions to other corps, and these type of things. So when that's done, you put the chits in the cup, which I'm doing here, but we're not done yet. So at the moment, each chit has an equal probability of coming out, and there's a similar number of chits for each side. So what we do now in the system is to try and model, simulate order systems. Each commander on the field, so we'll do the French first, is Napoleon's here, Murat's over here, and Ney sticking around up here somewhere. Here he is. They can choose a corps that's within their range of, let's see, they don't have a range put on them. Within their range, that they can put an extra chit in, so therefore to alter the probability. They can put more than 1 chit in. If the value is greater than 1, it can be the same one. So let's say Ney, we'll do him first. So all the corps within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can choose 4th, 6th, or 2nd. So let's 5. Hopefully get a good chance in here. However, this corps is going to be on defend. So with the defend order, when when the chit comes out, all it can do is move. It can't fire or attack. But the advantage of a defend is it doesn't really matter when the chit comes out, because they'll return fire when and if attacked. So let's do the fourth core. Alright, so we just need to find another chit of the fourth core. Here's one. So Nay puts an extra one of those in. So now there's two chances that the fourth core can come out. What about Murray? Okay, he's got first young guard over here, sitting here in reserve, and first cavalry, fifth cavalry is a bit far away. So first cavalry, okay, because they might need to swing around and plug this hole here. Although in retrospect, perhaps it might be best to try and get first young guard out earlier so it can come down and plug this hole. So let's do that. So that raises that chance. And just to show the effect, so Murray can put 2 in. So let's say Murray really wants the first young guard to come down here and hits that chit to be drawn early. So we could put another one in. So I'll have to just get one out of the system here. And first young guard, there it is. Let's put another one in, so that's him done. What about Napoleon? So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, third guard cavalry. So I think probably the third. Be one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I positioned that badly. It might have been good to have these poles come out. So we'll say old guard, which is here. And the 9th corps, which appears to be disorganized and demoralized. And I think we'll just check that. Okay, we'll check that. No, this corps actually is not demoralized. We'll just turn him off, demoralized, and this unit as well. Yeah, so it might be worthwhile having another one of those come out. So let's see if we've got one of those. Here he is. And then that goes into the pool. Right, so the pool's prepared. So for the very last thing, now I use these markers. You put one of these in. Now the weather's fine. The third time this marker is drawn, so each time it's drawn, make a note of it. And so I use these other ones here. And first time it's drawn, make a note, put it back in. Second time it's drawn, make a note, put it back in. Third time it's drawn, the turn ends. So you're never sure exactly when it's going to end. Theoretically, they can all come out and everyone except Victor won't get a move. If it's raining or snowing, storms, then it's every second one. And that's the mechanism's finished. Alright, so we won't pull a chit right now because we're going to do Victor's turn, and so I'll be right back and we'll show you how and what happens when we activate Victor's core, albeit him standing in a defensive stance. Okay, so here's Victor and his second corps. Got his supplies underneath here, and we've got an infantry and a couple of artillery units here, 2 infantry and some guns, horse guns here, and 2 infantry here, and notice they've got yellow border around them, which means they're not visible to the enemy. Let's have a look at the terrain. So there's a ridge here, another ridge here. Right, so the first thing you do when activated is you can give orders like a defend order or rescind a defend order, construction, march, these sort of things. These are solo rules, so I'm using this slightly different from the NLC rules, which have a lot more order types. Let's just keep it pretty simple. Then the second thing is, so let's not give him any orders. For demonstration purposes, we want to shoot the guns anyway. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to fire artillery out of this hex at someone who's in range, so probably directly ahead. And then we'll shoot this artillery that's on top here, perhaps at this unit. So how does that happen? Well, it's a combat results table, you can see there, and here it is. So artillery can shoot out a maximum through a hex side of 6 in this system. That's worked out by how many guns you can put along and the length of the hex sides. So that will be firing at 6, whereas the small horse guard one is rolling on this column. It needs a 1. When we roll, well, we're rolling 2 dice. One is to see whether the artillery has hit and injured or killed any of the opposition. And the second dice will be to see if morale is broken. Right, so let's have a look at that. So we have a 2 and a 4, which is 6, which is the maximum. And notice a slight mistake there. The artillery should be stacked on top. So facing is important in these rules, but also the order which you stack in. Because this is saying that whatever's on top is in the front. Alright, so we roll 2 dice, 2 and a 5. Now 2 and a 5 is a miss, but we'll have a look at the morale. So the morale of this unit over here is 4. So even though there was no hit, no damage to these guns which are standing out in front of this, well, there's 7 guns there, they will suffer a morale or disorganization. So the way we do that is we just put a counter on them to show they're disorganized. That means when their chit's drawn later in the turn, they will be hampered in their ability to fire because they're disorganized by taking all these cannonballs that just arrived on their doorstep. These guys in this particular, they don't fire back. They didn't have a defend order. If they had a defend order, they would return fire. So they'll do something separate in their turn. Right, so now let's fire the horse guns. A 6 and a 3, which is a hit. So this unit over here takes a hit, but its morale is not broken because 3 is not greater than 4. So instead, we don't need to put a loss meter marker on this one. Well, we can just take this unit straight off. So I'll take him straight off. We'll put him into the dead pile. Bring that over. And that is a further loss to the guard. So we'll take that down one. Right, and so that next, after artillery fire, is cavalry charge. And we don't have any of Rainier's purple units that are set up for a cavalry charge with a charge marker on them. So it's not enough just to have the cavalry there, it has to have a previously placed charge marker in the order phase. Finally, there is movement. So we could move this infantry across this ridge and shoot, say, at this cavalry. Doing that, however, if I just bring up the CRT again, doing that, however, you'll notice infantry fire at 5 maximum through their hex side, and 3 in restricted terrain like trees and in and out of villages. Actually 2. Artillery can be well sighted in villages and fire it on the 3 column, but any sort of restricted terrain, you're down to always using the 2 column. And no matter how much infantry you got there, if they're in line and firing through the hex side, the maximum is 5. However, if they have moved this turn, which would happen in the case of those units, let's turn off the CRT. So if these units were to move across this ridge in here, sure they could move, and then there'll be a fire phase, but there'll be -2 in the die roll, which is pretty severe, right? And if they were going to move such to shoot into this town, then they would be on the 2 column because of firing to or from, in this case, 2 restricted terrain of this village. Then they'll be on the 2 column -2. So probably would not be advisable to move, and might be worthwhile just taking, I mean, obviously going to take some fire here in a moment, and just see how the rest of the line fares. Finally there would be melee, so units could move and not fire, in other words they're moving in column, and then they would melee using the melee table. What's that look like? Okay, it's slightly different. So the melee table, we compare the strength of both units, and either 100% or 125% attacker, or the attacker's 200%. Then you roll a die, and either the attacker or the defender take a loss and sometimes retreat. As well as that, there is a test against morale, and if the unit fails its morale, then it runs and retreats. Okay, so I think that's it for that one chit pull. So what I'm going to do is do some more chit pulls, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like at the end of the 0600 hours turn. Alright, so the second chit that's come out is this Langeron. So actually I might just do a demo exactly of what happens with this. I won't go through every corps. because this guy's going to do some attacking. Right, so the chit's out. He's not telling anyone to do any excavation or putting people into charge mode, things like this. So essentially first thing's artillery fire. So he's going to fire his artillery, and I couldn't help but to put that in. Right, so he's a 5, a 6 and a 5, so that's enough to do 2 losses, so it eliminates this unit, and even if he didn't, he'd be demoralised. So that is off the French 4th Corps. So quickly put him away into the dead pile so we don't forget. And just to be super tidy, we will find the 4th Corps and drop it down 1. Right, then we have another artillery fire, and I can't help but do my cannons again. That's from obviously from Waterloo, right? If you've seen the movie. Okay, so again 6 can fire through the hex side, and I've rolled 6 and 5 again. You believe it? So artillery's just blown these guys away. Normally cavalry can retreat before musket fire, but I find it a little bit difficult to go bolting when cannonballs are coming down on their head. Right, so again, that's not looking too good for the French. So what's next? Next is cavalry. Okay, doesn't seem to have any cavalry, which is odd. Oh, it does, but they've been left long behind, because like every true proper war gamer, I make mistakes all the time, and I've forgotten to move these guys. So anyway, it's worthwhile showing. Let's put on the command radius. So everyone in command of this guy can move and fight. Everyone outside this cannot move and fight. They can only move. Right? So let's do some moving. And I wonder, I think I've even got some, not sure whether I've got some move, no I don't. Right, so cavalry can move 6, but the rules I use for, I have this from Wargame Grogs, I have this strategic movement ability where the 6 can go to 10 and 4 can go to 6, provided they don't go anywhere near a zone of control. Or they can even go into road march, in which case they string out every second hex and they can double their movement. But I think strategically we'll be fine here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And similarly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this horse artillery, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll swing him around a bit. Okay, so that's movement. There's no cavalry charge, because but otherwise it would have been, it's a pity I didn't have them in here, because they could have raced through here and caught this 2nd Cavalry Corps in the flank. I think we might send some infantry through. So that the artillery cannot move because it fired. So this is 1, 2, another one under here somewhere. 1, he's taking a loss. 2, 3, 4. maybe we go into the woods here. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, like, keep him straight. Right. And this final one here, I think we just can't, don't be too rash here, we'll just occupy that village. Right, finally, after moving this firing, so he's a 5, let's take one loss, so he's a 4, so he can shoot through one of the hex eyes he's facing, so one of these 3, so he's taking this one, so he's 4. He'd be firing into the flank of this unit, so it's not one of its forward facing hexes, so its morale will be dropped by 1, so normally it's a morale of 4, it'll be morale of 3. However, this guy moves, so you might remember, so he's -2 on the die roll. So let's have a look. A 5 and a 1. So 5 is -2 is 3, so it's 1 hit. But he doesn't, his morale is not affected, so just 1 hit. So we'll just clone that guy and put him over there. And that is the, not doing any melee, this guy's fired, so he's presumed to be in line, so you can't then go ahead and melee. If he were to change formation like that, then he would be disorganized, and his melee would not be very effective. So I'll leave it there. I think that gives you an idea of what's going on, and I'll do the rest of the turn, and I'll come back and show you what has happened. I don't think, what else have we got here? We've got some musket fire. It's going to go on, I think we just saw that. And we've got some infantry, and perhaps we might get the odd cavalry charge as well.